You are sitting on top of a damn avalanche waiting to go. The entire risk of the market is not what Putin does, what Trump does, it's valuation.
I want to hear your take on Trump's brawl with Jerome Powell.
For the young generation who's gotten humped pretty badly, they got sold a bill of goods about spending a fortune. They want to give them a 50-year mortgage, which means they're just renters.
AI, the most important development since fire, or, dude, the biggest bubble I've ever seen? Where are you?
Well, I put AI is not as important as the internet, and I put the internet not as important as electricity, and I put electricity not as important as fire.
We're heading into the spring. What's going on up in Ithaca this spring? What are you thinking about?
Goldstein's son.
What's happening, good people? We are here to record Macro Dirt Podcast number 81 on the 20th of January. My regular partner in crime is not available, so I got my old friend, the one and only Dave Collum from Cornell University to join us today. How you doing, Dave?
We're good. We go back a long, long ways.
We do, man. We are connected at the Soul via Ithaca, New York, where Dave, for my listeners that don't know, Dave was a graduate in 1977 and I was a graduate in 1990. And while we didn't know each other while I was at Cornell, I got to know Dave very early in my professional career as we got hooked up. I didn't even know how we got hooked up, but we've been friends probably for, 10, 15 years now at least, right?
Right. Probably via Twitter, but you never know, right?
Yeah. You know, my claim to fame now, Dave, is that I beat Tucker Carlson to interviewing you.
Like, there's a lot of people beat Tucker.
You and Zuby are my claim to fame, though. I was like, these guys are controversial.
Oh, you got Zuby? That's pretty good to get Zuby.
Yeah, Zuby.
I'm kind of a slut, but
you do put your thoughts out there, and that's what I really love the most about you is that you are not afraid to speak your mind. You speak what you believe and believe what you say, and that is a valuable commodity in the world today. So to go back into it, so Dave has got a 77 undergraduate degree from Cornell, a PhD in chemistry from Columbia. He's the Betty R. Miller Professor in the Department of Chemistry and Chemical Biology at Cornell. Were you at the Dead Show in 1977, Dave?
No, but we met up at the next Dead Show many, many decades later.
Oh, right. Did you really?
No, you did. You and I did.
Yeah. When I came up for the
all the old gray hair mossbacks.
Oh my God,
showed up. Yeah,
that was a riot. I'm glad I went to that because
I was not a deadhead when I was an undergrad.
I understand. I met some guys that were there for the 77 show when we came.
I've heard that's the legendary conference. What made that concert? What made that so special? What was it?
You know, it's hard to, it's the Dead community that picked up on the Barton Hall show and said that this might be the most perfect Dead show ever played. And I don't think they thought that at the time. I thought that by 10 years later, by the time that there were Dick's Picks and things like that, and people picking out the best of live Dead, that everybody zeroed in on that May 8th show.
That's an interesting one. The way those guys play, my understanding is that there's so much improv that it really could just, they're the one band that would have a, highly variable performance.
Yeah. And what's amazing, I listen to it all the time. It is a treat. And for somebody, I've listened to hundreds upon hundreds of Dead shows. And when a song from Barton Hall is playing, I can pick it out of a crowd. You know what I mean? And be like, oh, that's the Barton Hall straw or whatever it is, So that's how, I guess, legendary it was, so to speak.
Right.
So, Dave, I just read your year in review cover to cover. I'm literally blown away at the depth that you cover such a wide range of topics, man. How do you do it?
Good question. It's actually the shortest one I've written in probably 15 years.
I know that.
And for various reasons. I just finished Bob Moriarty, Gold Bug, and a guy named Jeremy Irwin, who's an editor. We've essentially finished preparing all 17 years for binding. Now, let me put that into context. So Jeremy had to edit, and I had to proofread and correct and fix a bunch of shit on what I estimate to be about 3,500 pages.
Oh man!
So one of them, the 2021 in book form was 550 pages, and I wrote it in the fall.
And that covered COVID and all of that, right?
That was COVID and January 6th.
Right.
And there was stuff, and I remember that was the one where I said, look, you can't just write till you're out of gas. You got to get to the finish of this one.
Yeah.
And so the finish was 550. It was more like 300 and something sort of single-spaced typewritten pages. But
is it cathartic to get all of your thoughts on paper like that?
It's cathartic to finish it. The other tough thing about writing a big document like that is that it sucks until the very last draft. And a lot of people don't know that. So you know, it's not funny, it's not edited, it's not, and you're working on it and you're shaping it, and then all of a sudden the last draft you go, I got it. But it means you basically suffer right up until that last draft.
Yeah.
And and then when I read it, it seemed like I could have shortened it, that particular one. It seemed, and again, if you got to write that much, you don't have time to shorten it as much as you'd like. But
yeah. But you know, it's important that you do it because you really paved the way for the citizen journalist, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Like you've been taking.
Hard to picture that being true, but okay, I'll accept it.
No, I think you do. Well, maybe it's just my frame of reference that you have, but like I don't think that there are Nick Shirleys unless there are Dave Collums first. You know, that are saying no. I don't really believe what the media is telling me about this Vegas shooting. I'm going to go dig in myself. And I remember that the piece that you wrote about that was one of the. I thought you deserved the Pulitzer Prize for that.
You said that one day. That's a repeated statement, I think. I think you said that before.
That's a testament to how earnest the statement it is. I mean, I read that and I was like, this guy just covered this topic better than anybody in journalism, and he is the biochem professor at Cornell University. So that says a lot about your effort and maybe about where, the mainstream media was going at the time, and now we know where they are. They're in the shit can in last place because all the citizen journalists and Joe Rogan and Tucker Carlson are at the top of the news media heap now, and it looks like it's going to stay that way.
Yeah, I was just watching Dave Smith and Tucker Carlson put the rant meter right to 11.
Yeah,
The powers that be are really terrified because the citizen journalists and the citizen podcaster that we're just saying we're not listening to you anymore. And this year was short for a whole host of reasons. I almost didn't write it. I actually quit writing several times.
Oh man.
Well, the problem is I had problems with my computer. I was in the Adirondacks. My wife wiped out her computer. She got mine. She wiped that out. Don't make me explain that.
Okay.
I was working with some 5-year-old Dell that I didn't know how to do shit on, and on top of that, then I did the Tucker interview, and then the Zionists went at me like there was no tomorrow, and I was pretty punch drunk by the end of that experience, and so. But I had to counter those guys.
Yeah.
So I was going to just write a blog, just say, screw it, I'm going to get someone to post a blog for me. But then I realized that I really also had to write the financial section too, because it feels to me like we're really finally staring into the abyss. And I think I made a pretty good case that the markets have reached the ultimate insanity, and so they can get more insane, but they can't get that much more insane, in my opinion.
That's interesting. So let's go towards the markets now. We've got a good background under our belt, and I have a list of topics that I want to hear your opinion on, that I've been dying to hear your opinion on.
You could just drop a dime and call me.
You know what? You know why I didn't, Dave? Because number one, you know that when you and I speak on the phone, those are 4-hour conversations, not 4 minutes. And because now we can make it into content and everybody can enjoy it, right?
Right.
So let's start with this, man. Let's start with this. When I saw the All In podcast earlier this year, which I'm a big fan of, David Sachs talked about the Trump boom in the economy, where we've got the benefit of more rate cuts, cheap gas, tax cuts, and better economic news, and we start seeing incremental GDP growth. Fact or fiction, the Trump boom? What are your thoughts, Dave?
It's actually a complicated question. I like the All In podcasts too. I think they kind of show their biases.
Yeah.
We all do, but I think they have that Silicon Valley mentality that they can't shake. It could be a Trump boom. I do not believe it's going to be on a timescale that even remotely matches what Trump would like and what his supporters would like. So I think Trump could turn out to be a transformational president. He could, in so many ways, right?
Yeah.
There's so many ways he could crash us right into a bridge abutment too.
Yeah.
I do not. I think someone said it really well to me. Actually, I said it's going to be it was Brendan Eich. I was on a Twitter space with Brendan Eich. And he said it's a multi-generational change,
Yeah.
and I think that's correct. So I think Trump can start it, and 50 years from now they may look back and say, Trump's moment in time was really a fork in the road.
Yeah.
And some thinks it'll be a bad one, some think it'll be a good one. I'm hoping it'll be a good one, but we're not going to reshore big industry on any sort of rational time scale. That's impossible. I've been involved in renovations of a floor of a chem building. It takes 2 years.
Yeah. No, that's fair. That's fair. That the things that he's doing are going to take a while to pan out. I thought it was interesting just recently that how his sort of approval rating was tanking, and the administration came out with like 5 jabs, all for Main Street. You know what I mean? Like, he capped credit card rates. RFK turned over the food pyramid. They limited the number of mandatory vaccines from 72 to 11. And you're like, wow. And then they plucked Maduro out of Caracas in a sweatsuit. You know what I mean?
Right.
And they're threatening to sell all of that gas onto the markets. What do you think of that, by the way? While we just touch on that, what was the Venezuela thing all about in your mind?
Well, I don't think it's drugs, because I don't think there's many drugs in Venezuela. I don't think it's because I was really bothered by all the reasons people were using to defend extracting him. I'm going, that's appalling. It's not because he's a dictator. There's dictators all over the world. Right. I actually don't believe it's the oil. Believe it or not, I think it's possibly the oil in a defensive strategy. If I had to guess, I would say that what Trump has done. Let's give him maximum possible credit. And again, I can make a case that Trump's a total boob at this point, or a rock star.
Same.
I can cover the entire range depending on who I'm talking to, if you want.
Same.
Let's give him the rock
amazing.
star. I think Trump could be saying, look, we are not only heading for a multipolar world, but we have to get ahead of it. And so I saw a great map where someone basically took a crayon and circled the entire Western Hemisphere and wrote Trump. Northern region of the rest of the world wrote Putin, and more southern region wrote Xi. And it was in crayon, I mean, it was just, and I go, that pretty much sums it up. So Trump could be, if you look at what Trump's doing, and that people think are psychotic, if you put it in the context of a Monroe Doctrine 2.0, some people call it 3.0. There's some period of time where we kind of did it since Monroe. Mm-hmm. He basically looks like he's circling the Western Hemisphere and just trying to rein it in. And in that sense, if he's doing that, I'm okay with it. I think going after Venezuela for the oil, we should just buy it. Mm-hmm. It's not the drugs. They don't move serious drugs in cigar boats. A cigar boat holds about enough drugs for Hunter Biden, right?
Yeah.
So, right. so it
Good
really,
weekend.
Yeah, good weekend at Bernie's.
Right.
And so I think it is a Western Hemisphere, get your paws off move, and that's what Greenland is. And I just saw Mark Carney talk about deep state. Holy moly. Mark Carney just saying we defend Denmark and Greenland. And Trump's the 5th president to talk about taking Greenland. So this is even new news.
Yeah. I still have Greenland on my noise cancellation policy, and until I'm forced to figure out what's going on there, I don't even want to know the story. It hasn't cost me any money. Not knowing it thus far sounds like another Gulf of America story to me that is utterly meaningless, and I'm not going near it.
Right, but again, it doesn't make sense that Denmark owns it either. That's the funny thing.
No,
right?
That's fair.
So if you're going to make it a protectorate, you say, well, okay, we got a superpower, we got a bunch of happy cloggers.
Yeah.
The superpower gets to take it if it wants. I don't think we should be doing it that way. I think it's possible it's going to be like the Louisiana Purchase, where the French knew they were going to eventually lose it, so they sold it before it was of no value to them.
That's interesting. Interesting take. I want to hear your take on Trump's brawl with Jerome Powell. Does the DOJ subpoena have anything to do with rates, or is it really the thing that has to do with Powell's involvement of the federal renovation? Like, what are your thoughts on that, Dave?
I don't have a strong opinion. They've been
Fine.
brawling. I don't. Yeah, it's just.
Fine.
I don't. Fine. I want the Fed to raise rates. Let's put it though. Let me just put it.
Why so? Why so? Let me hear it. I mean, go ahead. I don't want to take words out of your mouth. Tell me why you want the Fed to raise rates.
There are people who want to put them back in.
Yeah. Right.
I've gotten in arguments with people, and I think my argument is unassailable. They're talking about home prices being out of reach of the young generation, right? So the young generation has gotten humped pretty badly. First of all, they had to put up with the boomers as parents. Then they got sold a bill of goods about spending a fortune to go to college, and it doesn't matter what you major in, you'll just do fine. And now they owe a fortune. And it looks to me, I really make a case, which I think is a good case, that the rapid rise in debt starting around '08 was monetary policy. It wasn't even about college. They were liquefying the banking system with $1.5 trillion worth of money. Yeah. So the young generation comes out. They're working as baristas. They're not getting jobs. Things suck. They've been told, the men have been told that they're the problem, right?
Yeah.
They've been told that if they really want to be cool, they got to cut off their dicks, right? There's a good one. And so now the men are a broken generation of men. And men are tricky. You need men to be strong and powerful and protective and a hunter, and at the same time not beat the shit out of your wife. And it's a knife edge. So the women have to find that sort of Game of Thrones type male that at the same time is not going to hurt her, and going to help her. And now we got soy boys. We created a generation of soy boys. It's not their fault. We did it. The cell phone did it. Yeah. And all of a sudden, they want to give them a 50-year mortgage, which means they're just renters.
Right, forever.
And I go, when the 30-year mortgage was invented? During the Great Depression.
Is that right?
Same thing.
I didn't realize
yeah,
that.
Same thing. So here's what they say. They say got to lower rates. So what's going to happen? Lowering rates supposedly is going to make housing cheap enough for the soy boys. Sorry, I support you guys, but it just came out. Not you guys. And they want to lower the rates so that the boomers can sell off their houses without taking a hit to the next generation. And then when the rates finally when the free market finally price discovers the bond market, they're going to get fucked again. They're toast. So what you want, you got two ways to make housing more affordable. One is to drop the costs of the interest. The other is to drop the cost of the house.
Yeah.
We should let the housing market correct.
Yeah.
And then they should get to buy assets cheaper. They should get to buy houses cheaper. They should get to buy food cheaper.
Yeah.
So we really need a deflationary flavored. I hate to say deflationary because what's deflation, right? I don't know. We certainly don't need an inflationary world for them. They need to be able, and if we do get like a big correction in housing and everything, they will then get to put their hard-earned tips from being a barista into assets that'll return 8% instead of right now. The markets are priced to return 2.5%. I mean, it's a disaster.
Yeah.
It's a disaster.
Yeah, they have to buy into a stock market that's trading absurd prices. Everything they try to buy into is literally gone from a price perspective, and that's something that I agree. I'm glad that you have this awesome generational awareness about it. I know that you have a young son. I have three kids. So the whole thing is, always top of mind as to how this is going to go for the next generation. And I think that's really important about rate raising. I'd love to see that. That is a great thing. I would love to see the correction in the housing market via them raising rates. which will at least combat the inflation that we're seeing a little bit. But it's hard. If we don't get headline inflation, Trump is not going to let rates up. That's just my trading premise for since Trump has been in office. You know what I mean?
What if the bond market defies him?
That's my risk. That's
what I'm rooting for.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I mean, that's for an equity market bull. That's my risk, is a dislocating bond market.
Well, you're a trader too, though.
Yeah, true. No,
so you can go in and out. You dart in and out like a hockey skater, right? Yeah. And I think actually the Fed might be terrified of lowering rates and having the bond market defy them, and then we'll find out that they're basically powerless now. Well, so I think the Fed's afraid to do the experiment.
I agree. I think that the political pressure is such that pushing them away from doing the experiment, but I don't have a good answer. I don't know how this is going to transpire, but I just think that Trump is going to get rates lower come hell or high water, and as long as there's no headline inflation of 4 or 5%, we're going to be okay. And then if there is inflation of 4 or 5%, but we also have 5% GDP growth, we're also going to be okay. So that's the bear.
I think
that's the
dreaming
bear risk.
On the 5% GDP growth.
Yeah, I may be, and I don't know. And I put it this way: you are never going to get me to argue with you or anybody else about the economy. I will argue to you about the markets, though, and the markets are definitely perceiving a switch from a weaker first half of the year to a stronger idea for the recessionista bros are out of business right now.
Yeah, but if you pull the AI developmental costs out, the economy goes flatter than a pancake.
That's the next thing I was going to ask you about. Let's jump right into it. AI, the most important development since fire, or dude, the biggest bubble I've ever seen. Where are you?
Well, I put AI is not as important as the internet, and I put the internet not as important as electricity, and I put electricity not as important as fire. So
I like that.
So we're sliding downhill. So I do think AI, as a friend of mine said on stage with Mike Green, he said, you couldn't have imagined the internet. You could not have imagined it. In your wildest dreams in 2000, you could not have imagined what it would become. It didn't stop the NASDAQ from dropping 83%.
Good point.
Now, Gundlach made the electricity argument, which I've really glommed onto. Nothing like electricity. Look at electricity when that came in. He said the electricity stocks soared. They peaked in 1911. Which means they peaked before electricity even got started. You barely had appliances in 1911.
Yeah.
And so then the question is it possible all the AI guys who think they're going to get richer and shit on AI, their gains are in the rearview mirror, maybe.
Couldn't agree more.
And I think the big losses are going forward. I think the AI is going to be a catastrophe for some companies. I think there's about 7 companies that are going to battle to the death, and there'll be one punch-drunk idiot sort of stammering along, surviving it maybe. But you've got these high profit margin, way too high, historically high profit margin companies, which should be regressing their profit margins naturally. Mm-hmm. Low capex. What does Microsoft have to do, right? They just sell software, right? Low capex, high profit margin have now become low profit margin, high capex. Mm. So all of a sudden now that they're building out an infrastructure, and they say the GDP without the infrastructure is flat. Well, let me ask you this question: if you build a gas station, have you created any wealth? And I would argue no, because if you just then let it sit there, your wealth comes after you build the gas station. You start selling gas. Yeah. Right?
Right.
And so it's an upfront cost. If you build a warehouse and then put nothing in it, you've just squandered so AI is going to cost $1 trillion a year or something. It's just going to be an unbelievable amount of money, and it's got the life expectancy of what I refer to as a souffle, and it's going to have to be replaced completely. The servers and software, it's going to change so much, and it's so damn expensive. You make one of those AI videos. How many goddamn light bulbs could you light with the energy of an AI video? Right?
It's amazing. It's amazing. We were just concerned about like leaving the heat on our house too high because we were like burning too many trees down. And now all of a sudden AI comes along and it's like, yeah, we can use 10 times the power and let's go, we got to go find it. It's really, it's amazing, David. I love hearing you.
It's expensive.
Yeah, you could. What I love though is that you kind of confirm my thesis, because this is one sector of the market that I am not bullish at all on. Last year we had a huge sentiment.
Have you dug into Altman? You know who Altman is?
Lightly. Tell me what you were going to say. Why? What should I know about him?
He's a ShamWow guy. That's all he is. He's not a tech guy.
Yeah.
He's ShamWow guy. You go back to I saw a great 10-minute video that went through his history. He's a ShamWow guy. He's a pitchman. He's mypillow.com.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
He's just the guy who says, look, change it out from slice to dice and look at what you got.
A little bit.
And he's not the visionary. He is sold as a visionary. He's not the visionary. He is just the pitchman.
Yeah, that I could believe. But what I love
means we're getting scammed.
Yeah, right. But what I love about the timing of this conversation and having the same view as you is that I look at my year-to-date leaderboard, which I stare at 24/7, 365, and the whole top of it is natural resources, up double-digit percentages. And this year so far, software down 8%, cloud storage down 6.5%, Nvidia down 3% on the year. Like, whoa, man, you know what I mean? Like, the tech investor is getting tested right here. And it really feels like we're going to have an entire year where people pile out of tech and into natural resources. What do you think of that idea?
It's happening. I don't know if you noticed, but I put a tweet from something like March of 2025 into my year in review, and I said I'm down today, which makes me happy because the markets are up, and I think at some point being inversely correlated with the markets will pay handsomely.
Yeah.
And so last year, I got to brag. Last year, if you take away fixed income, which no matter how you cut it, you made about 4%. You can talk about the value of the bonds and stuff, but it kicked out about 4%. Mm-hmm. And my house, which you've seen, I believe.
No, I haven't been to your house. I haven't been to your home yet.
Oh, that's right. It's a $20 million view. It's 3 times more than I need, but makes me very happy, makes my wife happy. So I have to take that out. It's a risk asset, and it's a commitment of capital that's bigger than a house should be.
Yep.
But it's amazing. You take those away, which I don't control much of. My portfolio last year did 65%.
Whoa.
And this year.
So you're in the debasement trade then, right?
I'm in the debasement trade, apparently. I don't know what to call it, but it turns out that this year I'm up by 13%.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. That's what's going on. That rhymes with gold and silver. That rhymes with silver
platinum.
Being up 30%.
I'm taking credit for platinum.
Yeah, you had a good call there.
I nailed it. I didn't size it like Druckenmiller, but I made the call right.
Yeah, good for you, man. You deserve it.
And it's based on fundamentals, by the way. You guys who are listening, look at the above ground platinum supply is at present price worth about $6 billion. Mm-hmm. The rate of consumption is such that at the present rate of production, which is deficit, we're going to run out of platinum in 2.5 years. Yeah. How do you not like the metal? How do you not like the bullish case for platinum?
Bull case there, bull case in uranium. How about the deficit that we're looking at in uranium? Can we switch gears to that real quick, Dave? I wanted to hear your opinion on the uranium trade.
I'm not smart enough to follow the uranium closely. Part of it's because you have to understand the nuclear power industry. And so that guy like Doomsburg would get it and I wouldn't. Mm-hmm. Again, in this Twitter Spaces with Ike, he thinks the small reactors are not the solution. He thinks we're going to have to do big reactors, which I thought we were going the other way. So it gives you an idea how clueless I am. And I do have investments in uranium via these guys, Gehring and Rosenzweig, who I decided did know what they were talking about. And they're a very heavy uranium trade, small, boutique fund. And I think it's possibly a good play. But if the next gen uranium reactors come into play, there is some reason to believe that they'll be able to take the 4% spent uranium. So when you refine it, you consume about 4% of it, and then it's waste. That they can take the 96% and use that. One could make the argument, therefore, that we'll never have to mine uranium again.
Wow.
And so you got to pay attention to that. And it could be wrong. I mean, but I had a long chat with a guy who runs a reactor, and I have this funny feeling that we may have uranium sitting on concrete slabs with sarcophagi,
really
containing the fuel of the future. Yeah, it's possible.
With no place to go yet because we haven't built enough big reactors.
We haven't built the next gen reactors, which can supposedly burn it right down to edible.
Right. Wow, that's wild, man. Holy smokes.
But you should check that. I bet if you're listening to this, I'm an organic chemist. Remember, you always have to say this is not investment advice. I do have investment advice. Don't listen to organic chemists.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. I mean, you don't have to listen to a trader, publication writer either, but we're probably helping people that don't have as much of a direction maybe in their mind as we do, right?
So let me point out one other thing. Yeah. A lot of people talk about the valuations. First of all, the people who don't, you shouldn't listen to, in my opinion. The entire risk of the market is not what Putin does, what Trump does. It's valuation. You are sitting on top of a damn avalanche waiting to go. And you'll hear people say, and this frustrates me actually, where they say valuations are ridiculous. I go, put a goddamn number on it. Ridiculous could mean 30%. I put 200% on it.
See, I'm the other way. I loved reading your year review because I love your idea around you cannot inflate your way out of overvaluation.
That's an amazingly important point.
Yes, I agree. I think that's the argument to my bull case. You know what I mean? And you can say, death to those that don't pay attention to valuation. And I'll say, if you're not paying attention to valuation, then you miss the whole Nvidia trade. If you pay attention to valuation, then you miss the whole Nvidia trade, up 178% 3 years in a row. You know what I mean? So as a trader, I have to throw valuation out the window and say, where's the money going to go? And
I totally respect that.
Yeah.
As long as, here's the problem though. You're a trader. I know I'm a value investor guy, right?
Yeah.
There's the people who have not defined who they are.
Who don't know what stripes they're wearing.
Here's what they're doing. They really think they're me, but they're acting like you.
Yeah, that might be true.
And that's a problem. So I read Fleckenstein's site, and the questions are all about getting in and out of positions.
Yeah.
And I get in and out of position. I started buying gold in '99. I'm thinking about how I'll get out of it eventually.
That's funny.
But here's the problem I have with if you analyze what happens in previous secular bear markets, all 10 deciles of valuation go down. So if you think you can buy energy because it's cheap, and be careful, they say it's cheap compared to Nvidia. Everything's cheap compared to Nvidia.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But all 10 valuations go down, and that's true from the past. Now think about with the passive investing now, where the only option you have is to hit sell on the entire market. Mm-hmm. By definition, all 10 valuation deciles will go down. And so I'm waiting, and I may never enter the equity market in a big way for the rest of my life if you are correct and it just keeps going up. I've never seen an asset class get way overvalued that didn't find its way back to cheap.
Yeah.
Never happened.
No, I know. It seems to me, though, that, the game that we're playing here in, a debt-based economy is inflate our way out come hell or high water. You know what I mean? And if the Fed with guidance can't inflate our way out of here, we're going to dig deeper into the Fed toolbox to.
So what happened in the 70s when investors finally realized that owning equities that had a relatively shitty return were a bad thing to own when inflation was 17%.
Yeah, they got a wake-up call.
They got 14 years of a 75% loss. You not only lost 75% inflation adjusted, you spent 14 years out of what's an investment lifetime? Maximum 45. Because you got to start going to safe harbor.
Yeah.
Right? If you start investing at 25, you go 45, you're now 70, right? You got to start buying. You don't even buy green bananas anymore, right? You got to start going. You're thinking about how much annuities cost and things like that.
Yeah.
And so you get about 45 years. If 15 of those 45 in your going forward are lost, you got a problem.
Yeah. I know. And, for the trader, I still, I understand that we look at things differently. And I'm very aware of what I call the Sir JJ axiom, which is there's no such thing as risky securities, only risky prices, right? And buying into the equity market here, you are buying in at risky prices, like for the most part of anything that you're buying into now. So as long as you have a game plan for buying into things that are at risky prices, if you got a game plan to manage that, you can trade in this market. If you don't have a game plan on how to manage that, you're going to get wiped out one day. So,
but how is Dave going to compete against Tony in that market?
You mean you have a tough time, right?
Well, you're going to kick my ass in that market.
Yeah, well, until things all go right for you in 1 year and you make it all back. You know what I mean? Like,
well, so there's a guy named Ed McQuarrie who looked at 200 years of investing. That's a long time frame. He basically said that if you take out the 20 years following World War II, where financial repression was profound, they had interest rates that were something like 12% below inflation. They just squashed us like a bug to deal with the World War II debt somehow, right? He says if you take out those 20 years, bonds and stocks tied. Period. That's what Graham and Dodd said. They said, and you know what happens is you say stocks have a risk premium, everyone hears the word premium, and I go, did you miss the risk part?
Yeah, it's fair.
Did you miss that? Every once in a while, you get your ass kicked. So you had to have seen the chart with the red lines going across it, where I point out that if you own the top 5 times in the 20th century, you came back to that same price between 40 and 75 years later. You treaded water for 40 to 75 years, 5 times in the 20th century. Is anybody ready for that?
Yeah, no, it's a good point, man. It's a good point.
So if you're a trader, you'll win. You go long on the way up, you go short on the way down, unless it's the Nikkei. I got into with George Noble one day in a Twitter Spaces where he said, well, you can short the Nikkei. And I go, no, you couldn't. You know what it's like shorting a market that takes 15 or 20 years to find a bottom?
Yeah,
you get killed.
Yeah.
You get killed. You need a free fall.
Yeah.
Then you make money shorting.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, that's why it's not my game. It's not any. I don't.
Well, what do you do? What do you do? What are you gonna? Let's say the markets really seem to turn. Like today, for example, my portfolio, the Nasdaq is down. It's down like 1.5%, something like that. And my portfolio is up 3.5%.
So you're in the debasement trade, man.
I'm in the debasement trade, right? So let's say you decide that the market really has turned. The paradox that's so mind-boggling to me is there's some moment, I call it 2:03 p.m. on some Thursday afternoon, where the market hits an all-time high, and it is about to go into a secular bad period that can be very, very, it can be multi-decade. The British Empire took 50 years to go down the tubes, right? Multi-decade, and here you are, according to Price, you've reached maximum optimism at the very instant where there's zero reason for optimism.
I disagree, but I understand it.
Well, if you're at the top, there's zero reason. By definition, history showed the guys who owned the 29 top were maximum optimism, zero justification.
Yeah. Yeah, no, see, I mean, I feel like there's justification for optimism now. I mean, Dave, I look at the world.
Well, then it's at the top.
I don't know, but I look at the world like, we are coming out of a repressive 20 years in American history at some level, you know what I mean? Where we, all of the West kind of, deindustrialized at some level. And, culturally, the changes that all took place here in the last, that last period of time, it leads me to believe that the things that Trump is doing now are kind of more liberating than they are, okay, we're gonna put some clamps on this and slow something down. What they're slowing down is the revolution to take this country apart, is what it feels like.
I don't know.
Like
it looks like it's peeling apart to me, though.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it
right.
depends.
It looks like they're losing that fight.
Yeah,
right?
it's a little nasty. You know what I mean? Like, it's wild because we've got such a polarizing president right now. You know what I mean? And I think what's even more wild about it, and I'd love to hear your view on this, is I think that people's opinions of Trump are morphing like real time, and the story is changing. Right? It went from Make America Great Again to wait a second. How about America First? Right. And I feel like that movement, like right around Charlie Kirk's death, is all kind of being born.
That's a thinly veiled anti-Israel movement, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's right. Fair. That's what. Yeah, exactly. That's what it is. You're
right.
Yep.
And that's why I didn't write about Charlie Kirk, because the Zionists kicked the crap out of me this year. I didn't need to pick another fight.
No,
with
I agree.
And then I've been studying Satanism and trafficking and stuff for 3 years, and someone said, "Well, why didn't you write about that?" And I said, "Let me see if I got this right. You want me to dust myself off and stagger down the road after fighting the rabid Zionists and pick a fight with the Satanists?"
Right, and the pedophiles? Are you kidding?
And the pedophiles, right? Who, by the way, are presidents of countries and stuff. I think I'll pass on that one for time being, right?
Couldn't agree more, man. Couldn't agree more. We see what happens to those that are speaking out against it, and everybody gets told, right? Everybody's getting taking a beating, man. So that's the system that, like, as Dave Smith pointed out, once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Right? I was agnostic on that whole story for years, and sympathetic to being surrounded by enemies, right?
Yeah.
You can't not. And then a Canadian intel, or analyst, I should say, said you cannot understand the world until you understand Israel, period.
Yeah.
And so he gave me some reading material, and it's like, oh, God, you've polluted my brain.
Yep.
And that sort of triggered it. So in any event, I'm not anti-Semitic. I'm not even anti-Israel per se. Netanyahu should be taken out at the kneecaps.
Oh boy,
I mean, that boy should be dealt with.
There's a controversial topic that I'm not touching on this podcast.
Okay, you should clip that sucker out.
Yeah. No. Actually, we'll just make a note that we went around it. That's fine. Let's switch gears real quick. I want to hear what you think about Mayor Zoran Mamdani in New York City. Should the residents of New York be scared, or are we going to blow off top of liberalism in New York?
Mamdani doesn't trouble me as much as some people, because I believe that he will be told by very powerful forces what to do.
Yeah, that's fair.
And as a consequence, you say anything you got to say to get elected. Mm-hmm. So he's a total lunatic to get elected. Yeah. What is scary is that total lunatic persona got elected.
Yeah.
So that tells you, and if you look at the demographics who voted for him, it's bizarre, right? It's not just the lunatic left who voted for the guy. So it's really people that what they're really saying, and Jon Stewart said this brilliantly. Someone asked him if he wanted to run for president, and he said, "What you're asking me to be is to be the none of the above." Mm. And whatever, Mr. M, he is the none of the above. That's the equivalent of electing Trump. You're just saying up yours, up yours. Yeah. We're gonna stick a goddamn bizarro Marxist in there.
Yeah.
Just to fuck you because we have had enough. The median person. You should never say average. The median person is pissed off. Yeah. And here's the problem. Here's the real goddamn problem. If I am right and we are near a secular top, and someone said, I think it was Marty Bent said the other day, he said, well, I don't think the little guys will be hurt, thinking that they don't own assets and therefore, and I said, no, they always get hurt. They always get clobbered. Yeah. They get crushed, right? And if we're at a secular top, remember the secular top in 2000, we thought the world had fundamentally changed. It was just amazing what we're looking at. 1929, amazing what we're looking at. 1967, amazing what we're looking at. The Nikkei, we were sending management teams in 1989 to find out how the Japanese were running their economy so brilliantly, not noticing it was a goddamn credit bubble, right? And so it was euphoria.
Yeah.
You sense euphoria?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, it's a mixed bag.
I don't.
You know,
I don't.
nah.
I don't sense it.
No, I mean, I won't say that I sense euphoria, but I do sense that there's still people hanging on to the fact that we are like chipping away at this, government control thing, or at least we're kind of socializing the idea that everybody knows what's going on now. Right. So I think that eye opening is a very big deal. So,
but is there any evidence that us knowing? Let's look at the Soviet Union. They knew they were getting humped. Did it stop the Soviet Union from being the Soviet Union?
No, it's a good point.
Yeah. You can. They're lying. We know they're lying. They know we know they're lying, and they just keep lying.
Yeah, that's true.
So I don't see. I can be optimistic about Trump, but I think the time scales are wrong. I think we got to go through the valley of death. I think his various economic moves. Economically, I'm mixed on him, but I think the idea of bringing stuff back on shore is important.
Yeah.
If you try to do it on short time scales, I don't think it can be done.
No, I mean, I would agree with that in the practicality of it. But what I like as a trader is that he very clearly sent about a dozen bull markets in motion with the admin. You know what I mean? From the metals and mining with the onshoring theme to the uranium miners to.
Do you like the fact that the government is dumping money into private sector like that? Does that bother you?
No, it doesn't, because I feel like they're just getting and now you can crucify me on a number of levels, but I feel like they're just supplying the capital up front that these companies need to raise in order for us to secure our supply chain of critical minerals. And I think that that's the whole game that he's playing. And if he can affect that, he's going to.
So here's the question I have.
What's the risk there? Tell me what you think the risk is to that.
I think government getting involved in anything is a risk.
I mean, yeah, you don't want MP material to turn into the DMV. No, I agree with that part.
Solyndra, you name it. It's just government just makes bad decisions. And then the question: is there any evidence that there's a shortage of capital? It's slopping all over the market. It's big money slopping. So the question is, why is the market not able to just find the capital to do this? And I'll tell you, one of the problems is. One of the things he can do quickly, but it can also be reversed quickly if the ding-dongs get back in power, is to cut the regulations and make it impossible to do these things.
Yeah.
Now, there's a great book. I have several books for you.
Yeah.
Several books. One is by Robert Gordon. I can never remember the title, but it's about wealth creation. It's in the title. Robert Gordon, brilliant book. The other one, there's a guy named Ruchir Sharma who talks about what happened to capitalism. Some title like that, Ruchir Sharma. And he talks about two themes. One is he talks about the mistakes we make by flooding the market with capital. Too much capital, way too much, right? If private equity can buy a company, destroy them, sell the shell, and make money, there's too much capital.
Fair.
That capital's got to be more precious than that. So they flood the market with too much capital, way too much, intentionally, and then try to control it through regulations, and it doesn't work. So it gets into trouble. It's like releasing a bunch of, say, here's the teenagers, give them all the beer they want, but tell them not to drive drunk, right?
Yeah.
And then the second thing is he talks about bad interventions with good intentions. And he goes through these things where he said, here's what they did, but here's what actually happened.
Yeah.
And it's not a screed. It's not some Marxist thing. He's just saying what you have to do is not do the dumb shit up front.
Yeah.
And therefore don't give them. I'm going to be reading books on history of markets a lot this year. I've read a ton.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go back to that theme just to remind myself of the roots of this system.
Yeah,
and I think we're toast. I mean, I think we're in big trouble.
My fear is that it's placing value where markets otherwise wouldn't, and so that is
right.
There is the risk there to me. But at the same time, he's trying to get something done strategically for a bigger picture, and so I'm trying to remain optimistic that he's not going to fall flat on his face. That he's not going to build something that is a complete fraudulent failure while he's over here pointing out all the fraud and failure in the old system. That's what I'm hoping for anyway. You know what I mean? As a trader, I can see where one or the other can work out, and we'll see how it goes for the markets, that kind of thing.
So here's a question I like to ask people. Imagine this is a bit of a fictional experiment, but not completely. Imagine that you could buy a U.S. Treasury, 30-year Treasury, and there's two rules. One is that, well, first of all, you have no idea what's going to happen for 30 years. You can worry, and it's just a complete unknown. The odds of being paid back I think are 90-something% high. But here's what you can't do. You can't sell it. So it's like you're signing up for an annuity or something, right? You can't sell it. And the second thing is you can't hedge it, which you would hedge everything right away, but you can't hedge it. So you're saying, look, what would it cost you to buy a U.S. Treasury? What interest rate would you demand with these unknowns? Saying, look, you got to hold it for 30 years. What interest rate would you demand?
I'm not smart enough to figure that out, man.
Would it be under 10?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You don't think inflation could destroy you in the next 30 years?
I think it could, and I think that the Fed is wildly aware of that. And when I watched them put 9% headline inflation back in the bottle while the inflation never went away, I was in awe. And I said, "Oh, okay, like that's the power of controlling monetary policy." You know, I know my inflation is up 30% a year, and you guys figured out how to tell me and the market that it's only 2.5%. So there.
I think the Fed is retarded. I think it's a dozen bureaucrats who don't know what they're doing.
It gets scary sometimes,
but therefore, this is why I think the Fed's afraid of doing something aggressive, because I think they don't think they'll control. So the Fed's worst nightmare is to try to intervene and fail, because then we'll know they don't have anything left.
Yeah,
and they don't want to find themselves there.
Yeah, it's amazing, but that's the thing about when you control monetary policy, you're never out of options. Like I'll never be a believer that the Fed is handcuffed, the Fed is trapped. Like I will not even give in to that kind of thinking, because I've seen them Houdini their way out of a dozen predicaments that were way worse than Chinese water torture.
Okay, let me tell you the last 45 years of recency bias, why it'll stop.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so 1981, valuations were lowest in history. You could be a moron and make money investing starting in 1981. You could buy anything in 1981 and make money. Yep. You could buy bonds, you could buy stock, you could buy anything. China was just coming out of the dark ages. For the next 45 years, they sold labor for pennies. Yeah. Russia, various godforsaken places in the world sold resources to get capital. The demographics of the boomers, they were entering the workforce. They brought their wives with them this time. So it was a phenomenal demographic situation. And as Buffett says, the whole enchilada, the entire story is about interest rates. They were at 17. Over the next 45 years, they went to 0. Yeah. Buffett said that the secret to a secular bear versus bull market is the direction of long-term rates, not the level, the direction. For 45 years, I went from 17 to 0 almost linearly. Now, which of those are going to repeat? And the answer is none. Now, here's what happened. Now, I do not believe valuations trend, period. I believe valuations, they can get way out of whack. If you want to say valuations can trend up sustainably, then you have to assume that the returns on those cash returning assets are going down sustainably. So if you buy a Toyota, you're buying a good car. You pay $140,000, you're going to get killed on resale. Okay, so the bottom line is I believe that the valuations being 200% over historical valuation will regress. It's over some number of years, and I don't know the path. I don't know how it's going to get there, but it always has. Now, so the problem is over those 45 years, valuations shouldn't trend. They should just go up and down. And for 110 years, they just channeled. They just went up and down and up and down and up and down. 110 years through the 20th century, and then they left the channel in about 1994. And then they never look back. Now, over the 45 years, they expanded, which they're not supposed to do sustainably, according to what I just said. They expanded 4% annualized, compounding 4% a year for 45 years. What kind of tailwind is that? That is 45 years of recency bias. That's not. That is the people who remember when they weren't doing this are dead now. right?
Yeah.
And so what happens if the next 45 years they compound at -4% to get back to cheap? It will be a living hell.
Yeah. Yeah.
You say, well, they're never going to do that.
It'll put a lot of pressure on the whole system.
They will, unless you want to assume equities will never get cheap again. Unless you want to make that assumption, which I think is a stupid assumption. I don't know when, I don't know how, but to say they'll never get there.
Yeah, no, it's fair enough.
You have to be ready.
It's fair to keep something like that in the back of your mind when trading, investing, the whole thing. It's totally fair to know where you are, and I do that by understanding that I am buying risky securities at risky prices when I go into the markets like this. And for me, luckily, as a trader, that's been paying off. And like we have different strategies and we look at the world differently, but it was great to hear your entire view on this whole thing. Now, I don't mean to cut us off, but I do want us to close in 1 hour of a podcast, and I still have a few things to ask you about.
Fire away, lightning round.
This is a quick thing I ask. I'm talking to my daughter, who is a senior at University of South Carolina, and I happen to ask her about one of her friends. And I'm like, what was she majoring in? And she goes, oh, she majors in ChatGPT. What effect has AI had on the college student? Is this prevalent? Is this something that's a flash in the pan? Is it here to stay, that it's part of education now? What are your thoughts on that from your perspective, Dave?
Well, I don't have hard data. I do know that when I get an email from a kid that was written by ChatGPT, I don't read it. I've also found that there's articles that I think I ought to like, and I don't quite know why. And it finally hit me. You know how ChatGPT art was cute at first, now it's soul free, and you never want to see it again, right?
Yeah, totally. What a great point about.
My concern is that what you're reading and you think it ought to be a good article and it sucks is because it's very sterile. It's AI written. Like you go to Zero Hedge, Market Ear.
Yeah.
Do you read those?
No, man.
You might. They're short term, so I don't like them. But they're soulless. And so they're missing Howard Marks saying something to us.
They're missing human divinity.
That's right. And you don't even necessarily know it, but your subconscious is picking up on it. So here's the problem. The kids now have access to something that allows them, that will do their homework for them, that will write their papers for them. The question is this like us getting a calculator, which we survive?
That's what I mean. That's what I'm curious about. Yeah.
But the problem is, my experience, and I know a lot of people who share this view, is that writing is thinking. Now, you can put out your newsletter and use ChatGPT, right? It could write the whole thing for you. Mm-hmm. How would your intellectual development proceed under those conditions? The answer is it wouldn't.
Zero, right.
Zero. Right. So you would become a moron. And by the way, someone, I had this epiphany about the market. So if you take a ChatGPT and you put in information, like someone wrote 0 to 9 by hand and recursively had it recreate them. And by going over and over and over, they all became garbage and they all became identical.
Yeah.
And so here's the problem. What if markets are the same? What if markets are taking cues from computers, and they're generating slop?
Yeah.
So now we've got a market that's valued based on slop. At some point when the boomers start retiring and Michael Green starts looking pretty correct, and all of a sudden it will be unlike any period in history. And what that means, I don't know. But I think the kids are at risk of going brain dead, educationally.
Yeah, I love it. I couldn't agree more. And what I also love about that I also see in the next generation, most likely from my son, is a complete rejection of the tech stuff. He's had it with all of the stuff, like all of the social stuff, the anxiety, the participating, the having to be online, having to be on your phone. He's like a throwback kid. So it's kind of, I don't know. It's encouraging that there's real tangible pushback against this whole pivot into everything that thinks for you and does everything for you. So that was an interesting read on that. I appreciate that. I really appreciate that. And I don't know where it's going either, but it's going to have to change. It's going to have to change.
They're going to put the schools are going to get rid of phones completely.
That would be amazing, man. You know
Well,
what?
some are. I mean, it's already happening.
Yeah.
So schools are saying not just you can't take it out. They're saying you can't have phone in this school, period.
Man, I like it. You know, Dave, this plays right into it. I just went to a Cornell Lacrosse alumni mentoring type of dinner here in New York City, and the whole team was there with Coach Busick. And the coolest part about the event, which was the best event that we've had in a while, was not one kid on the team even had their cell phone visible. All college student, all NCAA Division I athletes. Right? They wouldn't even take it. They were obviously this is a coach's rule, but they weren't even taking.
Well, I was about to say that. So here's the problem. Our athletic director, I was chatting with him one day, and he told me that Syracuse basketball graduated one kid in 9 years.
Oh, God.
Now, here's the problem. I think coaches owe it to their athletes to raise them.
Yeah.
Their parents hand them over at 18, and we got to get them to adulthood. And I think the coaches who really cared about the development of their athletes matter. So I think Syracuse, for example, I don't care what they study. They should have plumbing courses up there. They should have carpentry courses up there. They should graduate, right? When we bring in students who are underrepresented, who are not ready for Cornell, Cornell's a meat market, right? Cornell will grind you to dust if you're not careful, because it's hard.
Quickly.
And if you bring them in and you destroy them, you've achieved nothing.
Yeah.
You've not achieved any social engineering, nothing. So you have to find a way for them, when you get them here, to not fail.
Yeah.
And so you have Africana studies and shit like that. You got to have that stuff, right? You bring in athletes, you put them in a dorm, they never open up another textbook. Those kids are going to end up swilling woolite in the alley before they're done. Remember that Woody Allen movie?
Yeah, I agree with you. I tend to agree with that theory. That's for sure, man. Well, it gets a little hairy. I'm dying to see how it plays out, but it's going to take a long, long time before it does. So real quick, last thing I want to ask you, Dave. We're heading into the spring. What's going on up in Ithaca this spring? What are you thinking about? What's on your mind? What do you got planned? Anything fun?
Nothing planned. I'm looking forward to seeing how Cornell Lacrosse looks. Goldstein's son. Timmy Goldstein's son.
Yeah, that's my teammate, man. Ryan is a good friend of mine. That kid is very interested in financial markets. He and I talk about them all the time, and I'm really excited that he is a preseason candidate.
Hey, did you ever play with the Rusty Red up in Lake Placid? Did you ever go up there and do that?
No, all of my friends went up.
You should have done.
I know. I missed that. I missed that bus for a number of different things that were going on at the time. But the Lake Placid that group is still together. You know what I mean? My friend Joe Lizio.
It's like a fraternity.
It is a fraternity. There is an actual Rusty Red wine that my friend Joe Lizio, who owns a vineyard, started creating, which is really pretty badass. It's got the Rusty Red Lacrosse logo on it and everything. The tradition at Cornell in the lacrosse program is like no other sports program.
Phenomenal.
It's unbelievable. It's something that we can
we should mention they won the national title last year.
The national champions.
We should mention that.
I think they're going to repeat, and I really think that my man Ryan has got a good chance to win the Tewaaraton Trophy. So,
which Cornell has an unbelievable number of Tewaaraton trophies. Do you know the story behind Pinnell and how he got unnoticed?
No, tell me the story. I'm sure I've heard it, but tell me.
So Pinnell was supposedly going to go to Quinnipiac, and he sent some tapes.
Yeah.
To some bigger programs. No offense to you Quinnipiac guys. And only Tambroni spotted him. And so I was talking to Tambroni, and I said, did you know he was going to be this good? And he said, I knew he was going to be good, but to say I saw that coming, that would be a lie.
Yeah, that's fair.
And so I watched him as a freshman in practice and stuff, and he had a skill as a freshman that was just such a tank too.
Yeah,
he's a tank. He's really a fire hydrant with a stick.
Yeah, he is. He's his own brand of attackman, that's for sure.
By the way, so is Kirst. I never noticed how big Kirst was.
Yeah.
He's a big boy. I saw him in a suit, and I'm going, he needs a better tailor. He's bursting out of that suit, right?
Sweetheart of a kid. He's all smiles all the time. He's off to a great start in indoor lacrosse as well. I mean, the Kirst family, they are for real. You know what I mean? And
yeah, five of them. It's like the Powell family, except probably
exactly.
better.
But to have all kids succeed at such a high level in a sport like that is unheard of, number one. Number two, it's mathematically impossible, but they're doing it anyway. And so you give him a lot of credit, and you just thank God that the kid came through our program and not to Princeton or Yale or something like that.
And to remind people, the Ivies, the year before. So 1 year the Ivies was the only league to lock down.
Yeah.
And so they lost players. They were allowed to transfer to other programs. So they lost a bunch of guys. The next year they lost to Maryland in the finals, and the only team to stay with Maryland. And then the following year they won the title. So Busick, a coach of the century. Coach of the century. I loved Richie. I thought I don't know what it was like to play for him. He might have been a beast.
Difficult.
But he was a coach's coach though. He was a
legend.
He was that rah-rah type of coach, the kind where you sit.
Great point. You know what I say about Richie all the time is that he was a motivational speaker before motivational speakers existed, right? Just his
exactly. When I met him?
Tell me.
I met him in 7th grade. I was at a lacrosse camp, and I thought I was there to learn lacrosse. I was 8th grade.
Yeah.
When I was there, I didn't realize it was a meat market.
Yeah.
The coaches at the lacrosse camp. Army, Navy, Hopkins, Syracuse,
I went
Cornell,
I know
Hobart.
You mean. Yeah.
Oh, the manliest camp?
No. Richie Moran's quick stick lacrosse camp that he's had at Cornell for decades, But
I think it was his first year at Cornell, and he was there. And I remember watching the coaches. They were just salivating over the players. They weren't there to teach us how to play lacrosse. They were there to find the big chunks of meat who they could recruit.
It is a bit
And then I first met the Simmons family, both Roy Simmons Sr. and Roy Simmons Jr. when I was 4 years old.
Oh, wow.
I used to be driven to a day camp by Roy Simmons Jr.
Really?
He lived on the same road, and he would pick a couple of us up en route to the camp every day.
Holy smokes. That is great.
Slugger. His name was Slugger.
Really?
His name was Slugger.
That is great upstate New York lacrosse lore. I can't think of a better way of ending the podcast than maybe two of my favorite people from the upstate New York area, Roy Simmons Jr., the former Hall of Fame lacrosse coach of Syracuse, and my man Dave Collum of Cornell University's. What school are we calling yours? Is it the Dyson School that you're a part of now?
No, I'm Arts and Sciences.
Oh, School of Arts and Sciences. Excuse me, I forgot that. They changed the Ag School to the Dyson School. Isn't that right?
No, the Ag School's now CALS.
Oh, CALS. That's right. That's the change that I...
So they got rid of the name... They got rid of the Ag field. The hotel school is less hotel-y. Right. Everything's got business. We're the number one provider of Goldman Sachs employees, which included you, as I recall.
Yeah, I believe it. I mean, the place is a winner machine.
Did you know Ricky Sherlin, by the way? Did you know Rick Sherlin when you were there?
I know that name. No, I don't know if we overlap.
He founded your tech stock. He founded your software group at Goldman. He founded it. You want to be ground level, founding Goldman's software group.
Yeah, that's a pretty good accolade. That's a pretty good accolade. Dave, man, you and I have to cut us off because this is what happens in our phone conversations. The rest of the world gets put aside, and you and I start shooting the shit about everything under the sun. That's why I love you. I appreciate that you speak from the heart. I can't thank you enough for joining us on the Macro Dirt podcast. Tell us where people can follow you if they don't already.
At Twitter, at David B. Collum. My pinned tweet is my annual year in review. And if you want to read 17 volumes of them, they're gonna go live at Amazon in a month.
Those will be a great resource for looking back in history one day. That's for damn sure, because you've covered everything under the sun better than the media has, and I can't thank you enough for that alone.
Appreciate it.
Dave, signing off. We'll have you back real soon.
Thank you.
Peace.